North Korea is one of the world's most isolated and enigmatic nations, and much of its political structure is built around the cult of personality of the ruling Kim family. The story of how the Kim dynasty began is not just the tale of one family's rise to power, but also a reflection of how communist states, especially in the Cold War era, built personality cults to solidify their grip on their populations. The roots of the Kim dynasty go back to the aftermath of World War II, with the rise of communism in East Asia and the beginning of the Cold War. The founder of the Kim dynasty, Kim Il-sung, was born in 1912 in Japanese-occupied Korea. His early life was shaped by resistance to Japan's colonization of Korea, and as a young man, Kim became involved in guerrilla warfare and communist movements in Manchuria, a region of northeastern China. This period would shape his anti-imperialist ideology and his determination to lead Korea out of foreign domination. During the 1930s, Kim fought alongside Chinese communist forces against both the Japanese and Chinese nationalist forces. His success as a guerrilla leader caught the attention of Soviet forces, who saw in Kim a potential ally in the fight against Japanese imperialism. After World War II ended, and with Korea liberated from Japanese occupation, Kim Il-sung returned to Korea with Soviet backing. The Korean peninsula was divided at the 38th parallel after Japan's defeat in 1945. The Soviet Union occupied the north, while the United States occupied the south. During this period, both superpowers installed leaders who they believed would be loyal to their respective ideologies. In the north, the Soviets installed Kim Il-sung as the head of the newly formed Democratic People's Republic of Korea, DPRK. Kim quickly consolidated his power. Despite his lack of name recognition among the general Korean populace, he was able to use his Soviet backing, combined with his reputation as an anti-Japanese resistance fighter, to gain legitimacy. The Soviet Union trained him politically and militarily, providing the North Korean regime with the infrastructure it needed to function as a communist state. In 1948, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea was officially established, with Kim Il-sung as its leader. From the beginning, Kim's rule was marked by the creation of a personality cult, a tactic often used in authoritarian regimes to control the populace. Through state propaganda, Kim was portrayed as the great leader, a revolutionary hero who had single-handedly liberated Korea from Japanese rule and would now lead it to a bright socialist future. This cult of personality was reinforced by controlling all aspects of life in North Korea. Schools, media, and cultural outlets glorified Kim Il-sung, while dissent was crushed through brutal purges. Kim worked to eliminate political rivals and any individuals who could pose a threat to his power. Anyone who showed disloyalty or opposition to the regime was sent to labor camps, executed, or simply disappeared. As Kim Il-sung solidified his control over North Korea, he also began to establish the foundations for dynastic rule. This was an unprecedented move in a communist state. Typically, leadership in communist countries did not pass through family lines, but Kim Il-sung was determined to ensure that his family would continue to lead North Korea even after his death. The Korean War, 1950 to 1953, further cemented Kim Il-sung's position as the unchallenged leader of North Korea. During the war, Kim portrayed himself as the leader of a heroic struggle against imperialist forces, primarily the United States and its allies. Even though the war ended in a stalemate, with the peninsula remaining divided at the 38th parallel, Kim used the conflict to reinforce his rule and deepen his cult of personality. After the war, North Korea became even more isolated, and the state-controlled narrative of Kim Il-sung's greatness only grew. The regime emphasized self-reliance, or Juche, as the guiding philosophy of North Korea. Under Juche, North Korea rejected outside influences and emphasized total self-sufficiency. This ideology became deeply intertwined with the Kim family's rule, reinforcing the idea that only the Kims could successfully guide North Korea. By the 1970s, Kim Il-sung was preparing to pass power to his eldest son, Kim Jong-il. This move was unprecedented in communist nations. In most socialist countries, leadership passed from one revolutionary leader to another, but Kim Il-sung broke this mold by turning his regime into a dynastic one. Kim Jong-il's rise to power was carefully orchestrated. Beginning in the 1970s, Kim Jong-il was given increasingly prominent roles in the state's administration. State propaganda began to elevate Kim Jong-il as the natural successor to his father, portraying him as a brilliant leader who had inherited his father's wisdom and revolutionary spirit. By the time of Kim Il-sung's death in 1994, Kim Jong-il was firmly in control of the country, and the first dynastic succession in a communist state had been completed. Ultimately, the Kim dynasty's foundation rests on Kim Il-sung's ability to consolidate power and cultivate a personality cult that has dominated North Korean politics for decades. His legacy lives on in North Korea's rigid state-controlled society, where the leadership of the Kim family is not only accepted but seen as the only legitimate form of government. Under Kim Il-sung's rule, North Korea became one of the most isolated and authoritarian regimes in the world, and his decision to establish a dynastic succession ensured that the Kim family would continue to rule for generations. Today, Kim Il-sung is still revered in North Korea as the eternal president, and his legacy shapes the country's politics, even under the leadership of his grandson and current ruler of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. Join us tomorrow for a video about the future of the Kim dynasty.